Number 10. Ancient and mysterious castle. An old and very mysterious castle was recently discovered in Turkey, and according to scientists, it dates back 2,800 years to the first millennium BCE, to a time when the ancient Urartu culture was battling with the more well-known Assyrians. The ancient kingdom of Urartu once spanned across much of eastern Turkey, northwestern Iran, and parts of Armenia. They emerged as a civilization in the early part of the 13th century BCE, and controlled a huge part of what is today the Middle East, but were ultimately defeated after a lengthy war with the Assyrian Empire, which is why the Assyrians are more well known today. After their defeat, historians believe the Urartu fled the area and were then defeated yet again by the Scythians, and this time wiped out for good. The ruins of the castle were found high up in the mountains at an altitude of 8,200 feet, about 2,500 meters. It's a remarkable piece of architecture, and one of the few that remains today since so many earthquakes in the area have erased what the Urartu built. Without much physical evidence, archaeologists haven't been able to properly study the Urartu or their way of life. Even the castle is nothing more than a few rocky walls, leaving a greater mystery for archaeologists to try and unravel. Number 9. The Oldest Observatory. The 13 towers were built in Peru in the 4th century BCE at the archaeological site of Chanquillo. So far as archaeologists can tell, it is the oldest solar observatory anywhere in the Americas. It's believed that the mysterious culture who built the observatory predates the Inca by at least 2,000 years. However, just like the Inca that came after them, the people of Chanquillo worshipped the sun. That is, until they mysteriously vanished off the face of the earth. The 13 Towers is an impressive sight, complete with a fortified temple in the very center of the towers. Here, the towers were constructed to align with the solstices. For example, the sunrise during the June solstice aligns perfectly with the very first tower, while each solar event after lines up with the next tower. In other words, the towers literally track the sun as it progresses across the sky throughout the year. Archaeologists and historians can't agree on what exactly the point was of tracking the sun, but they believe it probably played an important role in the religious practices of the ancient people. It may have also played a key role in the political landscape of the Chanquillo. Even after roughly 2,500 years, the ancient structure is incredibly well preserved. And according to the National Director of Archaeology at the Catholic University of Peru, this place could have been where the Inca originated. We know that the Inca made powerful decisions based on the sun. We also know they believed themselves to be the literal offspring of the sun. The Chanquillo may have come 1,800 years before, though their beliefs could have remained after they were gone, only to be picked up later by the Inca. Number 8. Giant Giraffe Rhino. In China, scientists have uncovered fossil evidence of a new species of giant monster. This monster was taller than a giraffe, but was more closely related to a rhinoceros. It lived 26.5 million years ago and was apparently one of the largest mammals that ever roamed the Earth. The bones of the extinct animal were found in the Linxia Basin, among deposits and other fossils all dating back to the late Oligocene period, or between 34 and 23 million years ago. A study of the fossil evidence was recently published in the journal Communications Biology, with scientists claiming that this giant rhinoceros weighed a whopping 21 tons, or 42,000 pounds, roughly the equivalent of 4 of the biggest African elephants alive today. Considering African elephants are the largest land animals right now, and this thing literally weighed 4 of them, you can get a pretty good grasp of its titanic size. The giant giraffe rhino also had such a long neck that it could reach up to 20 feet or 6 meters off the ground. And like a giraffe, it used its incredible height to eat leaves in the treetops. Scientists working with the Chinese Academy of Sciences say that studying the fossils will paint a clearer image of the evolutionary track of the rhino, showing how the rhinoceros went from being as big as a small skyscraper to the short, stocky, and burly creature we know today. Number 7. Mysterious Indian Mound. In Baton Rouge, houses were being built for a new subdivision when construction workers discovered something incredible. An Indian mound was identified on the property before development could begin, suggesting the site of the new subdivision was already a community between 600 to 800 years ago. From what archaeologists have been able to discern, it looks like the mound was probably constructed in honor of the leader of whichever Native American tribe called this place home. If you didn't know what you were looking for, it would be hard to recognize the mound as anything other than a gentle slope of dirt amidst the peaceful forest. However, according to Malcolm K. Schumann, the archaeologist who worked closely at the site to investigate its history, he and his team found baked earth and dark lumber, as well as artifacts like pottery and stone tools. Malcolm believes the area was heavily populated by a small settlement. There were probably houses and a temple, and he thinks much of the settlement was actually built around the house of a very important person. And it was this very important person who was probably buried underneath the central mound. We still don't know everything about the mound. It was crafted around the year 1300 AD, but the people who lived here are still unknown. Thankfully, the developer of the subdivision cordoned off the area and erected a historical marker in front of the mound, informing people it is a sacred place and preserving it for generations to come. What do you think would happen if they had continued construction over the mound? Do you think the houses would have been haunted? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 6. The Earth's pulse. A very weird recent discovery came after the analysis of major geological events from the past 260 million years. Scientists and geologists investigated the complex history of our planet and came to the conclusion that the Earth has a pulse. The serious geological activity seems to follow a cycle. There is a recurring cluster of geological disasters every 27.5 million years. What this means is that the Earth is literally pulsing, but each pulse is 27.5 million years apart. Previous to the study, geologists believed that the geological events on Earth are random. But the new study suggests the most devastating of all these events happen in a cluster and that they happen at a specific time and at specific intervals. At least this is according to the author of the study, Michael Rampino with the New York University's Department of Biology. What kind of geological activity are we talking about? Think volcanoes, devastating earthquakes, and other natural events that cause mass extinctions, both on land and in the sea. But don't worry. The last time the Earth pulsed, meaning the last instance of increased geological activity, was 7 million years before today, suggesting we still have about 20 million years left before complete and total devastation, if that helps at all. Number 5. Mysterious Ingot. Jason Baker, an ordinary 31-year-old guy from Plymouth in the United Kingdom, found something incredible while hunting for treasure with his metal detector. He had only been metal detecting for about 18 months when he made the exciting discovery. He was part of an event organized by the Southern Detectorist Club, basically a group-organized activity where people with metal detectors wander around a field together looking for goodies. Normally, people find a few Roman coins or nothing at all. But Jason got very lucky when he pulled a giant ingot out of the ground. This giant ingot is known as a pig, and it's believed that this particular one dates back to the year 164 AD. It's about 2 feet or 0.6 meters in length and inscribed with the name of the very famous Roman emperor Marcus Aurelius. To the untrained eye, it doesn't really look like much. It just looks like an ordinary iron ingot. But considering its historical value, the ingot could fetch a price of around $250,000 or more at auction. It is incredibly rare, and here's why. Back when the Romans invaded Britain 2,500 years ago, they began mining local lead. They cast the lead into huge blocks, stamped the name of the emperor on it, then shipped the precious metal back to Rome. Somewhere along the line, about 2,000 years ago, one of these iron blocks, also known as an ingot, got lost, covered in dirt, and went undiscovered until Jason came along with his metal detector and dug it up. Number 4. Monolith in the front yard. In Washington, D.C., a mysterious monolith appeared in Bill Anderson's front yard, and he has no idea how it got there. You may remember these mysterious monoliths from earlier in 2020, with the first one appearing in the Utah desert and then another one appearing shortly after in Romania, along with a handful of other mysterious monoliths being installed across the world. Well, now there's one in DC, but it wasn't put in a random plot of land out in the wilderness. It was stuck in Bill Anderson's front lawn in his quiet neighborhood of Hillcrest. Even more shocking is that the silver object appeared while he was out walking with his family. Just think about how quickly the monolith needed to be installed. Bill walked out of his front door, he and his family went for a stroll around the block in the cool afternoon breeze, and when they got back, there was a giant metal monolith installed in their front yard, just a few feet from their front door. As you can imagine, Bill was a little distraught. He tried to investigate the monolith by asking his neighbors, but they hadn't seen anything. Even crazier is that nothing was spotted on Bill's security cameras, because somehow the batteries all died just seconds before the monolith was installed. If that's not highly suspicious, I don't know what is. In a local interview, Bill joked that it could have been aliens that put the thing in his yard for unknown reasons. And even though he said it jokingly, the incredible details surrounding how it got into his yard makes you wonder if there isn't some truth to the theory. Number 3. Aztec Tower of Skulls. In the center of Mexico City, archaeologists just uncovered 100 skulls at an ancient Aztec site. It's one of the creepiest ancient constructions that the Aztec ever made. It's known as the Tower of Skulls, or Huizampantli, and it was first found roughly 5 years ago by archaeologists working with the Urban Archaeology program. But even all these years later, new discoveries are still being made. Archaeologists just unveiled 119 additional human skulls, bringing the total to 484 skulls found at the site. And believe it or not, archaeologists say there could be significantly more of them. But just what is the Skull Tower? And why would anyone build such a horrifying monument? The tower stood in the old Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. Archaeologists say it was constructed probably around 1486. It was built out of the skulls of men, women, and children, and each skull was most likely being cut from the victim of somebody killed during a sacrificial ritual. However, nobody really knows why the Tower of Skull was built or what purpose it served. It doesn't appear to be crafted of the skulls of the Aztec enemies, but rather completely random citizens chosen to be sacrificed to the great gods. And unfortunately for history, most of the Aztec structures here were destroyed by Spanish soldiers in the 1500s, including the Skull Tower. Number 2. Florida River Monsters. There's been a shocking discovery made in Florida. It's not archaeological, but it's pretty wild. As you may already know, Florida has a pretty bad problem with invasive species, specifically pythons from Asia, crocodiles from Africa, and even monkeys with herpes. Yikes. As if all that wasn't bad enough, a Cape Coral resident spotted a dead river monster from the Amazonian jungle while hiking alongside the Caloosahatchee River. The monster is known as an arapaima, and they can grow to be over 10 feet or 3 meters long and over 400 pounds or 180 kilograms heavy. These river monsters are ferocious predators that, if left unchecked, could decimate the local fish population. Not only that, but they're so strong that they can be a danger to humans. An arapaima headbutting a person underwater is like getting hit full force with a sledgehammer. According to the local woman who found its bones by the river, it was bigger than her 7-year-old child. She had never seen anything quite like it before. Nobody knows how many of the destructive monsters are prowling Florida rivers, but where there's one, there are probably many more. Number 1. Prehistoric Bones. In Las Vegas, construction workers stumbled upon a set of prehistoric bones while digging in someone's backyard to build a pool. Initial reports say the bones were at least 14,000 years old and come from our most recent ice age. It was actually a pretty funny discovery because at first the construction workers thought they had stumbled upon a crime. They thought the bones belonged to a dead person and phoned the police. But after a bit of investigating, the bones were identified as belonging to an ancient species of horse or another similar mammal from that time. Horses, giant sloths, and All kinds of weird monsters used to roam across Las Vegas and Nevada before humans ever showed up, so it's not that surprising to find bones here. Plus, the backyard is located close to the Tule Springs Fossil Beds National Monument, where mammoth bones were also recently discovered. Number 10. Ancient Civilization. When the Spanish adventurer Gaspar de Carvajal visited the Amazon jungle in 1541, he described cities that gleamed white and a land that was unbelievably fruitful. In other words, the Spanish adventurer described an ancient and powerful civilization that is not around today. There is no evidence of a gleaming white city in the Ecuadorian jungle where Gaspar was traveling. Could the Amazon jungle be hiding the remains of an advanced civilization that vanished between the 1500s and now? It is definitely a possibility. One of the biggest clues that points to complex societies in the Amazon is the presence of something called terra preta, which is an area of fertile soil that scientists know is created by permanent human occupation. Terra preta is an accumulation of organic matter and ash from fires, and it has been found all throughout the Amazon. Here's what else scientists have found. There are clusters of fruit trees at certain archaeological sites, suggesting people were cultivating fruit thousands of years ago. But if this is true, where did all the people go? Assuming there were millions of people living in the jungle, it's hard to believe they just vanished into thin air. One of the prevailing theories is that when the Spanish invaders made contact with the ancient civilizations of the Amazon, they gave them diseases. These diseases, which the Amazonians had no defense against, ravaged the civilizations and left their great cities empty. Number 9. Purring monkey. Between 2010 and 2013, 441 new species of plants and animals were discovered in the vast rainforest of the Amazon. Among these fantastic discoveries was a monkey with a rather unusual trait. According to scientists that found the monkey, it purrs like a cat. The species is known as the Kakita titi monkey. It's one of the 20 different species of titi monkey, all of which live in the Amazon. If you've never heard of titi monkeys, don't feel bad. Most people haven't. The baby monkeys from the species actually purr when they feel comfortable and happy with another monkey. Scientists aren't exactly sure why the monkey purrs like a cat. It doesn't seem to have any value in the world of survival. And to be honest, considering humans haven't even fully figured out why cats purr, unlocking the secrets of the purring monkey are quite a way off. There are other pretty fascinating animals found along with the purring titi monkey, including 84 fish, 58 amphibians, 22 reptiles, and 18 birds. Scientists found a flame-patterned lizard in the Colombian Amazon never before seen in the wild, a frog the size of your thumbnail in Guyana that's on the verge of extinction, and a new type of vegetarian piranha that can weigh up to 9 pounds and only feasts on plants. The only thing the Amazon is definitely hiding is more amazing animals. What's your favorite animal from the Amazon? Which one do you think is the scariest? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 8. Underwater etchings. There was a drought recently in the Brazilian Amazon that resulted in an amazing discovery. It happened near the jungle city of Manaus. Underwater etchings were discovered when the drought caused the river levels to decrease. They were first spotted by a fisherman in the Rio Negro. The water fell to its lowest level in over 100 years, and it left thousands of locals stranded as their roaring rivers turned into dry ditches. The water levels have gone up since, covering the ancient underwater etchings once more. But luckily, archaeologists managed to get to Manaus first to take photographs of the mysterious artwork. As it turns out, the symbols and pictures carved into the rock go back at least 7,000 years ago. The sketches depict faces, snakes, and other strange animals. This is further evidence that the Amazon was home to a large civilization. The president of the Brazilian Society for Archaeology, Eduardo Neves, says that the etchings were made at a time when the water level was significantly lower. However, there is no name for whoever made these rock carvings. The people who left the marks are now ghosts, and it really makes you wonder just how many other archaeological wonders have been erased by the ever-shifting landscape of the Amazon jungle. Number 7. Jungle Guardians. Deep in the heart of the Amazon, there's a tribe guarding the sacred land against all the horrors of the outside world. There's a very specific tribe acting as the jungle guardians to the Amazon. They are known as the Wayapi, and they've lived in the remote Brazilian state of Amapá for hundreds of years in complete isolation. They live in harmony with the rainforest. They support their way of life by using the trees and rivers, and they are trying to keep their tribal land safe from miners and loggers. But just what exactly do the Jungle Guardians believe in? The Wayapa believe they were created by a divine being known as Janjara. This being played a song on a long flute made from the wood of the Imbaúba tree. As he played the flute, the Wayapa were born into the world. They lived with no knowledge of the outside world until 1973. When they made contact with the first non-indigenous group ever. Why did this happen? It was because the Brazilian government tried to build a new highway through their land. The project was abandoned eventually, though enough of the highway was still built that hunters and miners could easily reach the remote lands of the Wayapi. What happened when all these outsiders made contact with the tribe became infected with diseases, and their way of life became disrupted. In the 1980s, the tribe banded together to take control of the area, but they have never been safe. Even today, the rest of Brazil is slowly but surely fighting to end the long and peaceful existence of the Wayapi. Number 6. Alien in the trees. In the Brazilian rainforest, something that may have come from outer space has been spotted. From what anyone can tell, there may be aliens wandering around the jungle. And honestly, what a better place for them to hide. This alien was captured on a video made by 2 British tourists visiting a remote village. They suppose that alien only appears in a single image. The tourists had taken snapshots of the local village kids, and it was when they inspected the pictures later that they discovered something just beyond the village, in the background, wandering through the foliage as if completely normal. The strange creature appears to have a bald, oddly shaped head. It looked to be naked. It also looked exactly like a small grayish-green alien stumbling out of its ship. Nobody in the photograph seemed to realize what was happening just behind them. Perhaps they were just used to seeing that alien. Or maybe it was invisible and only showed up in the film after the incident. Even stranger is that the picture also shows a sliver of light behind the alien that could have been part of its spacecraft. We don't know exactly where this was taken, or if the tourists ever witnessed the mysterious creature again. And for that matter, we can't possibly imagine what an alien would be doing in the Amazon jungle. It could be that they have their base out there, hidden in the greatest wilderness on Earth. Number 5. Witches. Deep in the Peruvian rainforest, there are apparently witches. According to a report from The Guardian, a woman accused of practicing witchcraft was recently burned alive in an indigenous community in one of the remotest parts of the Amazon jungle in Peru. The indigenous community is called the Xiringamazu Alto, and they banded together to sentence Rose Villa Yaranyanka to death based on some pretty flimsy evidence that she was a witch. This woman was 73 years old. The incident happened in the middle of September, but didn't reach the authorities for months because of how truly remote the community is. Someone present at the execution had actually made a cell phone video of the woman being burned to death. The video showed Rosa with her hands tied, the woman trapped on a pile of dry logs and branches. The man in the video then soaked the woman in gasoline and threw a match onto the fire. Rosa could be heard screaming until the screaming stopped and she was dead. Afterward, the villagers allowed her body to continue burning for 3 days to get rid of all the evidence. According to the prosecutor of the case, Hugo Mauricio, witchcraft is quite common in the area. Well, not witchcraft exactly, more like accusations of witchcraft. Something similar happened in 2015, when a pregnant woman was accused of being a witch and beaten so badly she miscarried her baby. Number 4. Hidden symbols. In a remote jungle valley in the Amazon, a huge monolith dating back 2,000 years and decorated with strange symbols and patterns has been identified thanks to 3D scanning. This happened in northern Peru, and was possible because of Jason Kleinheinz, an engineer who was determined to get to the bottom of the mystery. He and his team traveled into the valley of the Utcubamba River and used their Artex 3D scanner from a distance of 13,000 feet to survey the area. They found the monolith almost completely covered in undergrowth. They estimated its weight to be around a ton. It stood only around 2 feet tall and was only 10 feet wide. In other words, it was actually a pretty small monument. But what's really strange is that the rock used to make it was not sourced locally, meaning it had to be brought in from somewhere else. Even more mysterious are its details. The monolith is covered in bizarre carvings, some just barely visible to the naked eye. One of the main carvings is that of a feline figure believed to be some kind of ancient god worshipped by whoever lived in the area. The monument was probably at the center of a sacred place, though what went on here and why the ancient people abandoned it is still a mystery. Number 3. El Mayantu. In the depths of the Amazon rainforest, there is apparently a monster called El Mayantu. According to the local legends, El Mayantu is a type of goblin creature with the scaly body of a reptile and the face of a toad. The creature has the ability to shapeshift. It can camouflage itself easily to disappear, and it lives high in the forest canopy where most people don't bother to look. And, believe it or not, there have actually been sightings of this bizarre creature. Most of the sightings are reported in the wetlands of the Peruvian rainforest. El Mayantu is not an evil spirit like other mythical inhabitants of the jungle. Instead, the weird toad monster is said to come to the aid of humans when they need assistance, but only humans that deserve its help. If you're there to destroy the jungle or to harm those who live in it, El Mayantu can be bad news. But just who exactly believes in this thing, for real? It's the native Yagua Indians who live near Iquitos that believe in the El Mayantu. Some of the people here actually worship El Mayantu as a deity they say has the power to heal people. Number 2. Titanoboa. Let's move on to a very real monster that once ruled the Amazon jungle, and could be around today. It's known as the Titanoboa, and it's a 40-foot snake so big that if it were alive today, it could probably swallow a tribal village in a single bite. The first evidence of this prehistoric monster was found in Colombia, when a fossil was discovered 60 miles from the Caribbean coast. About 60 million years ago, just shortly after the dinosaurs went extinct, this part of the world was a swampy jungle. It was hotter than it is today, wetter, and the animals were bigger. It also received significantly more rain, nearly double. It was the perfect environment for a serpent that weighed more than a ton. According to the Smithsonian, the Titanoboa would have looked very similar to a modern boa constrictor, but would have behaved more like an anaconda. At the thickest part of its body, it was roughly 3 or 4 feet. To put that into perspective, it would barely have been able to fit through a standard door, and since it was 40 feet long, it wouldn't even have needed to strangle you. It could have literally just hit you with its tail like some video game boss and broke all your bones. The really terrifying part is that some people claim the Titanoboa is still hiding in the lakes and rivers of the Amazon today. There is no evidence to support this, but some claim, somewhere in an unexplored part of the jungle, the Titanoboa is hiding. Number 1. Man of the Hole. Hiding in the Amazon is a man nicknamed the Man of the Hole. He's believed to be the last surviving member of his tribe. Not too long ago, video footage was released from Brazil's Indigenous Affairs Department showing who they believe to be the Man of the Hole, busy chopping down some trees with his axe in the remote state of Rondônia. Unbeknownst to the man himself, the Indigenous Affairs Department has been keeping an eye on him for the past 22 years. This is because back in the 1980s, farmers and illegal loggers began to destroy his tribal territory. Then, in 1995, an attack by cattle ranchers killed every last member of his tribe. He was, and still is, the only survivor. This is obviously tragic. It's like watching the last white rhino die, knowing there's nothing that can be done to save it. Nobody knows his real name. They don't know the name of his murdered tribe, and they don't even know what language he speaks. The only reason he's still alive is because the small territory he lives in is finally protected by the government. Nobody has actually been able to get close to the guy either. The last time somebody tried to contact him, he shot arrows at them. Would you dare journey into the Amazon? Number 10. Song Dynasty Shipwreck. From the depths of the South China Sea, an ancient cargo ship dating back to the Song Dynasty between the years 960 and 1279 AD has been salvaged. At the time of its creation, it was an impressive ship, still holding a cargo of amazing artifacts with reminders to its past upon its discovery. Ancient pieces of treasure made from gold, silver, and copper were found with the wreckage. In fact, there were so many treasures that a museum was built just to hold what was found in the wreckage. According to Chinese archaeologists, this is the earliest, biggest, and best preserved merchant ship discovered in the China Sea, and the only one of its kind that has been trading goods along the maritime Silk Road from Old China to the rest of the known world. Some of the artifacts include porcelain products like bowls and pots. In total, there were also 17,000 copper coins uncovered. There were personal belongings too, like bracelets and rings. This would suggest the ship was filled with merchants and possibly passengers too. The ship itself was 72 feet or 22 meters long and sank because of unknown reasons. The discovery remains a crucial help in studying old world trading and way of life. Number 9. Icelandia. A secret sunken continent may have just been discovered hiding beneath the small island nation of Iceland. And no, it doesn't contain the lost city of Atlantis, sadly, though that would be incredible. The international team of geologists who discovered the mysterious continent have given it the name Icelandia. Extremely original, we know. Researchers are saying the underwater landmass likely stretches from Greenland to Europe, meaning that if it weren't under the sea, it would create a land bridge stretching all the way from France to Greenland, making it almost possible to travel from North America to Europe by land. The continent has a surface area of roughly 230 square miles, or around 600,000 square kilometers. Here's where the discovery gets even more amazing. If scientists can prove beyond a doubt that the landmass exists, even if it's deep below the surface of the ocean, it will prove the ancient existence of the supercontinent Pangaea, and that it never completely broke apart 50 million years ago. Pieces of it only sank. Number 8. New species of shark. A new species of ancient shark has been discovered, and it is as terrifying as it sounds. An international team of researchers led by the scientist Sebastian Stumpf from the University of Vienna was the first to uncover the fossil of the prehistoric beast, which is its very own new genus and species. The fossil itself was discovered in the Kimmeridge Clay Formation in England, a small collection of sedimentary rocks that formed underwater during the Upper Jurassic period almost 150 million years ago. The shark species has been named Hybodontiform. This breed of ancient animal goes back about 361 million years and is believed to be very closely related to modern sharks. However, they went extinct alongside the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. This shark had huge teeth that it used to rip apart prey, though it wasn't actually that big, only about 10 feet or 3 meters in length. Big enough to scare us, though. Scientists are still trying to figure out the reasons behind why a shark species like this one were wiped off the planet after the asteroid impact, while our own modern sharks survived and are still thriving today. The realization might just be able to help in conservation efforts today. Number 7. Plutonium from space. A very interesting radioactive element from outer space has just been found embedded in the crust of the Earth, located deep beneath the sea. The element is plutonium, which you might recognize from just about every spy movie where the villain is trying to get a hold of it to destroy the planet through nuclear weapons. Specifically, researchers found the plutonium-244 isotope, which they believe arrived on Earth along with another rare metal called iron-60. Both elements may form during supernovas out in space. They say the immense heat from the explosion of a supernova, a star blowing itself apart at the very end of its life cycle, causes the elements to speed across the universe and eventually land on our planet. Understanding how elements like these are formed is one of the biggest remaining questions right now in the world of physics. According to physicists working with the Australian National University, half of all elements heavier than iron come from the hearts of stars through the process of fusion. But there's another collection of elements that are born from within an even more explosive environment, such as a supernova. the collision of two neutron stars, or a neutron star falling into a black hole. Space is confusing and overwhelming, I know. The bottom line here is that plutonium-244 was discovered stuck in the Earth's crust at the bottom of the sea, and it has been there for at least 80 million years, slung across the vastness of space after a star larger than the entirety of a planet exploded. And if that doesn't sound crazy, we don't know what does. If given the chance, would you ever travel to space? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 6. Bloated whale. Off the coast of Australia, a fisherman discovered what he thought was some kind of floating alien ship bobbing along the ocean waves. The object appeared smooth, a whitish-pink color, and it looked like some kind of inflatable extraterrestrial vessel that crash-landed out at sea. It wasn't until the Australian fisherman got close to it that he realized he was dealing with something organic. The stench of rotting putridity assaulted his nostrils and made him gag. It wasn't a hot air balloon or an alien vessel that he found, but it was definitely something dead and bloated. According to the unlucky fisherman, Mark Watkins, he had accidentally uncovered a dead whale. Not quite sure what he had expected. He realized it was a whale due in part to its smell. But how can a dead whale look so frightening? The gross phenomenon happens when a whale dies. Its stomach fills up with gas and causes the whale's corpse to bloat, actually similar to what happens to our own bodies after death. This creates a floating hot air balloon of rotting flesh. Humans don't exactly start floating up into the air after death, but it is entirely possible to float up once in water. Mark Watkins said there were sharks circling the ballooned whale's body, and so it was a bit of a surprise that it was even still floating and not torn to shreds for the shark's lunch. Mark didn't wait to see what the sharks would do, since he didn't really feel like having a whale's inflated stomach bursting guts all over his boat. He took some pictures, sailed away, and nobody ever saw the horrifying thing again. Number 5. A giant crustacean. A new species of crustacean was recently found very deep in the ocean inside the Atacama Trench off the coast of Peru and Chile. The new crustacean is a type of amphipod endemic to the trench, meaning it doesn't live anywhere else in the world. What's really crazy is that the amphipod is roughly twice the size of its nearest relative, making it a very real monster, in size at least. The creature was discovered roughly 16,000 feet or 4,900 meters below the ocean's surface, in the deepest part of the trench known as Richards Deep. Researchers also found creepy isopods with spider legs, pale snailfish, and other bizarre scavengers. The amphipods are plentiful down in this region, and they actually play a pretty critical role in their local ecosystem by eating whatever food sinks down to the bottom of the trench. To give you an idea of just how deep in the ocean these little crustacean creatures live, the Atacama Trench measures roughly as deep as the Andes Mountains are tall. No wonder it took so long for scientists to discover the species. It took years to even make equipment that was able to withstand pressures associated with ocean depths this far down. Number 4. Mysterious body of kidnapped victim. Something so tragic that it's hard to even talk about was discovered 3,000 feet or about 900 meters beneath the surface of the sea off the coast of Spain, near the port of Guimar. A sports bag was found by Spanish rescuers tied to an anchor resting on the seabed. Inside the sports bag was the body of 6-year-old Olivia Guimeno, a young girl who had been kidnapped by her own father. She had last been seen over a month before her body's discovery. Local authorities carried out an autopsy to confirm the girl's identity, and the family had been informed. But unfortunately, the girl had been taken along with her younger sister, who was not discovered. What was found was a second sports bag, only this one was empty. Authorities believe the sister was also tied to the anchor, but somehow slipped out of the bag and will probably never be found, since she's likely to have become fish food by now. As for how the young girls ended up deep in the sea, they were kidnapped by their father, who took them without consent and left the country on a boat. The boat was later found empty, but the murderous husband is still missing and at large. We send our condolences to the family of the victims and hope justice can one day be served. Number 3. Alien HQ. shocking footage has revealed what could be an underwater alien headquarters about 2,000 feet or 600 meters below the surface. Yes, we understand how crazy that sounds. The potential alien base was found thanks to Google Earth. Internet sleuths found the satellite image of an aircraft that appears to have been flying very close to the surface, too close for comfort. It was somewhere between the west coast of the United States and the Santa Catalina Island. Below the craft is what conspiracy theorists say looks like an artificial structure partially hidden due to the blackness of the ocean. The area also happens to be a hotspot for UFO sightings and even alleged alien abductions. And if what the conspiracy theorists say is to be believed, some of these abductees have reported being taken to an underground base. Well, that underground base may actually be an underwater base, and the plane caught flying over it may have been doing reconnaissance or possibly bringing more abductees to the secret lair. No official organization has come out to deny the claims, since they do seem more than a little far-fetched. The base has also been debunked by other internet sleuths who claim the underwater structure isn't a base at all, but simply an oddly formed piece of rock. The truth is that nobody can really be sure what's down there, whether it's natural or of another world. It is fun to guess what could possibly be lurking beneath the depths, though. Number 2. Lair of the worms. Scientists have discovered the lair of a marine worm species on the floor of the ocean. The worms have long since died and have been turned into fossils. But 20 million years ago, when they thrived, they were pretty frightening little critters. These ancient giant worms lived in underground dens drilled into the ocean floor, where they waited for unsuspecting fish to swim by so that they could strike just like snakes and pull them down into their burrows. According to the Smithsonian, researchers believe the fossilized worms could be the earliest fossils ever found of an ambush predator. The lair of the worm was discovered on the sea floor off the coast of Taiwan. The lair itself is about 7 feet long and 1 inch, or about 2.1 centimeters wide. Just imagine an earthworm with a whole lot of teeth living in a den in your garden 7 feet or 2 meters long. It's kind of terrifying. These worms could probably grow anywhere from a few inches long to over 10 feet or 3 meters. They also had sharp teeth to rip apart prey, and a single antenna that they used to detect motion in the water. It's strange to think that worms were once fearsome predators, but that just goes to show you how mysterious the ocean, especially the ocean of the past, is. Number 1. Eternal green sea turtle. Scientists have discovered what they're calling a group of eternal green sea turtles living in the East Pacific waters off the coast of La Jolla in San Diego. Fascinatingly, the turtles were witnessed socializing with snorkelers and divers, something never really seen before with sea turtles. The behavior has left scientists more than a little confused. There are 4 resident turtles here living in an unprotected part of the coastline, which scientists say is also unusual. It's also strange because the turtles are swimming in cold water, which they aren't really supposed to like. But even though the behavior seems to be a bit strange, scientists say it's a good thing. According to Megan Hanna, a marine biologist from San Diego, the eternal green sea turtles are the result of 30 years of conservation. The population of green sea turtles may have increased in the last few years, and what we're seeing now is turtles moving into new territory and adapting. Of course, the sea turtles don't actually live for eternity. You probably would have heard of them before if that was the case. But the fact that they're living in such an unusual place and seem to be thriving, along with the fact that they've become accustomed to humans and actually hang out with divers, well, this makes them very special. So scientists will keep an eye on the eternal sea turtles to see what they get up to next. Thanks for watching. What's your favorite oceanic discovery? Is there anything about the sea that fascinates or terrifies you? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more awesome videos. See you next time. Bye-bye.